Hello dear students, welcome to this lecture on a very important topic, that is personal interview, in short PI. In this lecture, I shall firstly discuss what exactly is a personal interview and why a PI is conducted. After this, I shall discuss briefly the different types of personal interviews as well as the different types of questions that are asked in a PI. And finally, the most important section in which I shall discuss the effective tips for cracking a PI. Let me also mention here that this video presentation has been primarily designed for the final year students both at UG and PG levels who are preparing themselves for various job interviews. So let me begin with what is a personal interview. A personal interview is a meeting or an interaction between a potential employer and job seeker for prospective employment. It is a platform to exhibit the right skills, abilities, and potentialities of the employee. In a personal interview, the employer tries to figure out whether the candidate can fit into the job profile and work culture of the organization. And the interview also tries to figure out whether that is the right organization for him or her to work with. Next, I would like to discuss what are the different reasons for conducting a personal interview. Firstly, the employer has known the candidate only through a piece of paper, his or her resume. Hence, PI is a platform which enables the interviewer to know the prospective employee as a person other than his resume. Next, in a group discussion that usually precedes a PI, the employer has observed the candidate in a group, but in a PI, the employer gets an opportunity to know the employee personally through a face-to-face conversation. Next, in a personal interview, the personal interaction with the interviewee enables the interviewer to figure out whether the candidate is the right potential fit for his or her organization or company. And finally, a personal interview helps the employer to know the prospective employee's functional or job-related knowledge. The PI is a platform to exhibit the candidate's technical or hard skills. So these are the different reasons for conducting a personal interview. Now let me discuss briefly what are the different types of personal interviews. Firstly, one-to-one interview. In this type of personal interview, one interviewer interacts with one interviewee. The candidate is interviewed in different stages in which different interviewers ask questions on specialized areas or topics. The next is group interview. In group interview, a group of potential employees appear for the interview together. Thus, in this type of interview, multiple applicants are interviewed at the same time and place. The next type of interview is stress interview. Now, what is stress interview? In this type of PI, the candidates are exposed to stressful and critical situations in order to find out whether they are capable of working under stress and provide solutions to problems accordingly. The next type of personal interview is HR or behavioral interview. Now, what is HR interview? HR interviews are conducted to gauge the personality of the candidate. In this type of interview round, a candidate's strengths and weaknesses are assessed in order to understand whether the candidate is fit for the company's job profile and work culture or not. The next is technical or functional interview. In this type of job interview, the interviewer mainly focuses on the candidate's subject knowledge. Thus, a candidate's technical or hard skills and abilities are assessed as they directly relate to the needs of the specific job that they are applying to. Now, the next type is telephonic interview or Skype interview. Remote interviews, such as interviews by phone or interviews via Skype or any other platform, are common types of interviews in the current age of internet and technology. Even if the candidate does not meet the interviewer in person, but he or she should present himself or herself in their best professional way, dressed in formal attire, only in order to create a very positive first impression. The technology ensures that the candidate saves his or her time and overcomes the obstacles of geographical boundaries. Now, after this, I would like to discuss broadly the different types of interview questions. Broadly, they are divided into three types. Firstly, technical questions. Questions that are specific to the job role that the candidate has applied for. Next is analytical questions, questions that assess a candidate's logical or reasoning skills. And very important, that is behavioral questions, questions that reveal the character traits, abilities, and strengths of a candidate. So broadly speaking, there are three different types of personal interview questions: technical, analytical, and behavioral questions. Now, coming to the most important section in this presentation. What are the effective tips to crack a personal interview? Now, here is the first tip. Candidates should not turn up late or arrive just in time for the personal interview. One should arrive at least 15 to 20 minutes before the scheduled time. Arriving early gives us enough time to get ourselves composed as well as complete any formalities that might be required before entering the interview room. Arriving before time also gives the candidate ample time to read over the job description as well as one's resume. The next point that I would like to discuss is one should carry all important documents such as mark sheets, certificates, as well as a copy of the resume that was submitted to the organization. We should not forget to read the job description as well as our resume before attending the personal interview. One should be aware of one's skills and qualities that are mentioned in the resume and must also have a clear understanding of how those skills are aligned to the job description. The third tip that I would like to discuss is that during an interview, one's answers should be honest and to the point. We should not fake any kind of information in a PI. If one does not know the answer, one should simply say that he or she does not know it. We should ensure that our responses are precise and should also try our best to provide evidence in our answers and arguments. So, the fourth point is that in a PI, the candidates should not only communicate fluently and confidently, but also should listen very carefully and attentively. Listening is a sign of respect. Hence, the interviewee should listen attentively to the questions asked by the interviewer and reply confidently to the best of his or her abilities. The fifth point, candidates should make sure that he or she undertakes a series of mock interviews before attending the actual interview. This would surely enable the candidate to communicate confidently without much nervousness. Being nervous in a personal interview is pretty normal thing, and the interviewer shall definitely take this into consideration. Apart from mock interviews, listening to debates and discussions in the television and reading editorial in standard English newspapers and magazines also help immensely in developing one's communication skills. Now, the sixth tip that I would like to discuss in this presentation is very important, and that is body language. Body language speaks volumes about one's personality. It plays a vital role in a PI. The interviewer notices everything: a candidate's gestures, postures, eye contact, and facial expressions. The interviewee should sit straight, stay calm, and maintain eye contact with the interviewer. A candidate is evaluated from the moment he or she enters the interview room. Hence, what we speak is important, but how we speak and conduct ourselves in the interview room is even more important. The seventh tip for all of you: candidates should dress appropriately so that he or she looks a thorough professional. Whether it is a face-to-face personal interview or an online telephone interview, one should dress properly. This is an important dimension of non-verbal communication. A professional look boosts our confidence level and helps in creating a very good first impression. Also remember that it is really important to either turn off or silence one's mobile phone before the PI commences. And now coming to the eighth point, or the eighth effective tip: candidates should research well the company or organization before attending the PI. In order to know about the organization, one may visit their website and go on their social media platforms. A candidate can confidently participate in the interaction after knowing the history about the company as well as finding out their latest news stories. And now, the ninth point is that a candidate should always remember that positivity attracts positivity. Hence, it is really very important that the candidate smiles, remains pleasant and enthusiastic, as well as demonstrate good manners throughout the interview process. One should be positive about whatever one talks about in the interview room. A candidate should never speak negatively about his or her former employer, colleagues, and boss. It is also good to be positive about one's previous job experiences. It speaks volumes about one's personality. And finally, the 10th point: candidates should prepare well in advance the frequently asked questions, FAQs, for personal interview. Some of the common FAQs include: tell something about yourself, what are your strengths and weaknesses, what are your short-term or long-term goals, to name a few. One should prepare well these questions for interview and should also prepare a few smart questions that one could ask the interviewer towards the end of the personal interview. Remember that asking questions in an interview is a great opportunity to show that one is a smart person and that he or she cares for the future success of the organization. Towards the end, I would like to mention a list of frequently asked questions in a personal interview. So here is the list for all of you. Tell something about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What are your short-term or long-term goals? Why do you want this job? Tell something about challenges you have faced at work. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Why should we hire you? Tell what you know about our company or organization. Why did you leave your previous job? Could you walk me through your resume? Do you have any questions for us? So students, these are common questions which are asked in a personal interview. Dear students, I hope this presentation helps you to some extent in preparing yourselves for personal interviews. If you have liked this video, kindly share and subscribe to this educational channel, that is Belly Education. Hope to come up with more useful videos for all of you. Thanks for listening.